Well, hello there, my pumpkin growing friends, or perhaps just a garden enthusiast or a stranger wandering by through the fields of the internet and stumbling upon this here video channel, whatever. Whoever you are, I don't care. My name's Chad. This is the greenhouse. We've got some giant pumpkins, some giant tomatoes, and some giant watermelons growing. It's time for your weekly-ish general update. There's a good chance I'll also talk about the rain since I've been doing that every video as well. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Today is July the 6th. It's been, I don't know how long since our last video update. We're going to call it about a week. 4th of July was great. Happy birthday to my mother. She turned 40 again this year. And I took that Monday off and I got completely caught up on everything. So the 3rd I got caught up, today being the 6th. I am, I need to do some work this weekend again, but everything's going good. Speaking of going good, go to ColoradoGiants.com if you want giant pumpkin seeds that I will give away for free at points of the year, as well as Colorado Giants t-shirts, coffee mug, stickers, whatever, ColoradoGiants.com. Also, if you like the video, if you want to watch more of it, hit the subscribe button. It's right down there. Enough with all that. Pumpkins are growing good. Tomatoes are doing good. Watermelons are doing good. Let's get a little bit more in depth on each one of those things. Here I am with the watermelon plants. They're looking very good. I don't remember the size of these off the top of my head, but it's something like 8 feet by, 12 or 14 feet, something along those lines. The main vines are pretty much at the end of their allotments, and the side vines are all there as well. The weed fabric, I should have covered the weed fabric with something else because this particular weed fabric is fairly transparent, so I can see lots of weed activity underneath the fabric, but that ship has sailed and there's really nothing I can do about it. Once we got a little bit of heat, time for the rain conversation. It has been raining still, an incredible amount. We've had rain just about every day in July. In June was the wettest June on record. May was the wettest May on record. It's nuts. I have been watering so little in the greenhouse because the rain wicks off the greenhouse and it just permeates the perimeter of it, which then kind of saturates and wicks up into the greenhouse. So I haven't been doing a whole heck of a lot of watering and fertilizing. It's nuts. So the rain in conjunction with the cooler weather and the clouds, it has been a very unusual year. Quite the opposite for the Midwest. Think your Wisconsin type of states, Minnesota, they're not getting a whole lot of rain at all. It's all over here, which again, I'm fine with. It's not a complaint. It's just unusual, because we're filling up all of our reservoirs and whatnot, and that'll trickle down to all of our West Coast friends and all that stuff. So there's your rain spiel. But the watermelon plants are doing great. Again, once we had a little bit of sun and heat, they really have kind of started to take off. I'm not doing a whole lot of pruning on these guys. I'm kind of just making sure that the vines, and I'm being contrarian to what I'm saying I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep them somewhat parallel here. Like, I'll pretty much just go down and I'll drag the vines like so that they stay kind of parallel. I believe I should be trimming off the tertiary vines, but if I'm being honest, I just haven't done it. So really, that's the extent of my watermelon maintenance. I'm going to let them get a little bit bigger, and then I'll just kind of come through and I'll terminate all these vines. I have watermelons started on all of these. I don't know if they've taken, and I don't know how long it takes to get to that point where you know your watermelon's good. So I'm looking at one right now. It's maybe about yay size, the size of your thumb or so. Hopefully they really start to take off, but I'm very much enjoying the watermelon plants. It's fun to see something and do something a little bit different. They act totally different than a pumpkin plant, which is fun because I've been doing the pumpkin plants for either 7 or 8 years now, and mixing it up is fun. So speaking of different things, let's look at the tomatoes. Here are my 3 tomatoes on the cattle panel. It's hard to show you the scale or how in depth or in detail, just anything about these plants. It's easy to see on the watermelons as well as the pumpkins, just the symmetry of the vines and whatnot. But I watched Chris Brown's video, great channel, Garden of Giants YouTube channel, I believe is Chris's. Subscribe to that, lots of good information. And I kind of tried to follow his advice, but even on his video, it's kind of hard to follow what you're supposed to do. So I kind of winged it a little bit, did lots of pruning. These also took off as soon as we got a little sun, as soon as we got a little heat. They really started to go, and I wasn't on top of it. These were basically big bushes. You could probably see it in just walk-bys and some of the other videos. But yeah, so I know I've talked about the trusses in the past and me not wanting to pollinate on that first truss, which is probably down here somewhere. Now we're a few more squares up, and I feel like the plants are big enough to push a giant tomato, and I'm getting the next set of fruit trusses right about here, and I'm seeing some large blooms kind of forming. I don't know if any of these are mega blooms yet, because they're really just now developing. In Chris's video, he mentioned that one of the triggers for mega blooms was pruning, so hopefully me taking off basically half of these plants will stimulate these plants into producing mega blooms in conjunction with the unusually cold temperatures. But all in all, the tomato plants are looking really good. In fact, these are all Chris Brown's genetics, all 3 of these, that he sent me those seeds. So thank you, Chris. They're doing great. On to the pumpkins. Here I am at the back 1643 new. I had a pumpkin that was pollinated on June 18th, Father's Day. It didn't abort per se, but at day 16 it was still just about yay big, maybe like the size of a small Nerf football, and it wasn't doing anything, even if it didn't abort mosquito. Because of all the water, I feel like I'm in Minnesota with all the mosquitoes that we've had. They're eating me alive because I'm so sweet. Anywho, I cut that one off. I pollinated this one. This one's day day 9, I believe. Day 9, we're about the size of a big softball. It's looking good. That one had deformed lobes. I liked where it was in the plant. I liked the pollination date, but this one being 9 days ago, so that was, the tail end of June, we'll say June 28th, right? Yeah, June 28th or so. This one's still fine. It has a heck of a lot of plant behind it. The only problem is that we're probably, 4 feet away from the wet wall right here. So if this pumpkin takes and it decides, it's going to be the one, I'm probably going to shift it over a smidgen and kind of have it grow a little bit, so we have maybe 8 feet. So this is Plan B pumpkin. Plan C pumpkin is right here, and Plan D pumpkin is right there. I think you can probably see all those. So I have 3 pollinated pumpkins. One of them should take, and we should be good to go. As far as this plant goes, it's doing great. Everything is nice and symmetrical. The leaves are smaller, lower to the ground. Does that mean anything? I don't know. I suppose I could take it as the plant is spending less energy on making huge leaves and will then send that energy to the pumpkin. Fingers crossed that's what it is. As a whole, though, I'm just really proud of, I suppose, myself for staying disciplined on my vine burying. I'm only 1, 2, 3 nodes behind on my vine burying, and that's just because, like I said, I did it a few days ago, and I'll catch up this weekend. I have not gotten to the point where I'm so far behind I give up. I don't have huge amounts of weeds. In fact, I don't have any weeds on where I've buried recently. There's weeds in the center of the plant, the oldest section along the main vine where there's light going in through the canopy of leaves. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. I can take a page out of Jamie's book, or so a lot of the East Coast guys, they're actually putting weed fabric down the middle. I'll definitely do that next year, if not weed fabric on the whole thing. But I'm just really happy that I haven't gotten super lazy. I've stayed motivated. Everything's buried, and everything's looking really good. And last but most definitely not least is this here pumpkin. Emily helped me get it on its growing board. We've got foam underneath it, 2 sheets of mill fabric, then some sand for this to grow on. This one is 16 days old, I believe. Sounds right to me. And it's, I don't know, it's like a small beach ball. It's growing really good. I'm very happy with the size of this pumpkin. It looks like it wants to be very orange. I pollinated with the 326 Ritter, I believe, were the specific genetics, which grew Getty's grew like a 2,400 pound pumpkin off of that. I didn't want to cross it with the sibling back there. I wanted to outcross it, and those ones back there are crossed with this plant. So that back plant is a sibling of itself. But it's grown really good. I mean, just the last few days it's started to take off. I should put my time-lapse cameras on it, but I'm using all of my energy on vine burying and keeping up with fungicides and sprays and stuff like that, not like goofing around with a camera, which is the way it should be. So all in all, this pumpkin's looking really good. Let's check out the plant. That's better. I turned the lights on. It's 8:45 at night, so those lights have come in really handy when it comes to vine burying. Huge shout out to the missus. I couldn't come out here and take care of the plants unless she was taking care of the kids. So pumpkin growing is always a team effort by many factors. And on that note too, Ron Wallace has been a ton of help. Don Barron is always a wealth of knowledge. Just everybody else, the local people, Brad, Jason, always bounce things off one another. So Ben McMillan is a great guy. He's been helping me out a lot. So make sure that you connect with good people that help push you forward. The whole community as a whole is like that. There's a few outliers that are kind of turds, but that's part of the fun in growing giant pumpkins, is that everybody helps everybody for the most part. They might not tell you the secrets of the secrets, but in my experience, they're willing to tell you 98% of what you need to know to get you across that finish line. That's no different. So big thanks to Don, Ron, Brad, Jason, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You guys are awesome, and you make it more fun. So thank you. On that note too, the plants look great. This year, no overly massive leaves, no tons of nitrogen bloat. I haven't put in nitrogen in probably at least a week and a half. I've been sending in lots of soil and tissue samples into Western Labs. And the owner there, John, I believe his name is, super great guy, will talk to you for an unlimited amount of time, pretty much telling you what he thinks about your soil chemistry or your plant chemistry and how you need to change or modify what you're fertilizing. So I haven't put in basically no nitrogen, and the plant's doing great. So I see no reason to continue to hammer it like I did last year and pretty much all the years before. The plant itself has slowed down. I think you can see it in frame. Maybe there's, I don't know, like a 10 foot at the top, little triangle, little right angle kind of triangle here. that's left to fill in, and really that's about it. There's some on the other side of by the tomatoes, and on the far plant, you guys might be able to see that one has a little bit more to fill in because that plant was offset a little further. But you know, these really should be filled in totality in probably 2 weeks or so, and then I will have no vine bearing to do, and that'll be just swell. At this point of the game, do expect your plants to slow down. As the pumpkins start to grow, that energy that the plant is creating is getting funneled into the fruit and not into the plant. We're getting to that time where you're not worried about growing plants, you're worried about growing pumpkins. So while you want to fill in your growing space, don't worry about it, it'll happen. Pumpkin is your focus now, not plant necessarily. And when I say that, I mean that on like a fertilizing type of situation. You always want to be cognizant of your plant and what it's doing and what it's telling you. Now is the time of the year where you have to focus on the health of the plant. So keeping up on your sprays. Powdery mildew is going to be rolling in and showing its ugly face. So, you know, maybe August, perhaps a little more. I'm expecting it to be sooner here with all the rain and wet and humidity. So, you know, loading up on your what you need for that. Eagle 20's probably the best one in my opinion. I use Candida Control as a kind of a preventative, and that seems to work really well. Keep on top of your soil drenches. Ron's been helping me a lot with this one. Don too. Ben as well. You're telling me kind of what they use as a preventative rotation. Your TKOs, your Dacanols, your things that kill all the soil disease. That's really important. And for me, I got to get on it here pretty soon. I want to stay on top of my spider mites. So if you have any spider mite side recommendations, let me know. I don't want any baloney that has like rosemary or extract of frog hormone, anything like that. I want stuff that'll kill them and kill them dead. I need a mask, a respirator, and then I got to go take a shower after applying it. I want, you know, that caliber of stuff to kill them and keep them dead, because I don't want them coming and wrecking everything. I think that's the last few years have been a big part of late season decline, is those dumb spider mites. So with all that being said, that's all I have to say. The season, knock on wood, so far is going great. It's been a great balance of keeping on top of everything, spending time with the family, 2 plants. I'm super happy with 2 plants and, you know, other relatively low maintenance things. I'm super excited. I'm very happy to see how we finish this season, what the pumpkins do, and, you know, follow along on that journey. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll get to them. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you get out there and grow yourself a giant something or other. Maybe a tomato or a pumpkin or a watermelon. Heck, grow a giant carrot. We'll see you next week.